All right, everybody, welcome back to the Made New Project. We have a special episode today. One of my friends, one of the first ultra marathon runners I ever saw win a race. Well, really the first one I ever saw win a race. But we have Mr. Eric Kienle from Montana. Eric has been running ultra marathons since 2017. He has multiple course records to include the Wild Florida 120 in less than 24 hours. I think a 23:17. Absolutely incredible. He is the current mid-state mile course record holder at, I believe, 133 miles, roughly 40 to 41 hours. He has won the Mid-State Mile with multiple other races, and most recently, the first person to ever complete the double Georgia Death Race, a 74.2-mile race with roughly 16,000 feet of elevation gain. Eric ran it backwards to the start of the race and then started the race with the competitors and ran the race itself. Both of his times going down and back were under the Western States qualifying time of 24 hours. So about 148-ish miles in less than 48 hours. It was incredible. I was there to crew. So Eric is also a friend of mine. He is also sober like myself. He is a father and a man of faith. So, Eric, welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, it's good to be here, man. Excited.
Yeah, good to have you. And we're going to talk a lot of things, folks, probably a lot of mid-state. Eric is also somebody at the Mid-State Mile. He's ran it every year since the inaugural year. And this year, he has decided to take a year off. And, Eric, I just want you to kind of let the people know what it feels like to be taking a year off and why this year and what you look for moving forward at Mid-State.
Oh, for sure. So even last year, I showed up to crew Matthew Johnson. I ran a couple laps just for fun, do a couple laps with some friends. But last year, I really wanted to just give back to a race that's given me so much. I think it's kind of a good, take and give relationship. So last year, I wanted to help somebody else go far. And like you were saying, I've ran it every single year since the very first year in 2020. There's been two other people, so we've been the people who've done it every single year. But I just kind of felt, especially living in Montana, um, it is quite a hike to get down there sometimes. And we're trying to do a big family trip down to Ouray, but I more wanted to just not go this year, just to kind of remove that feeling of obligation of, oh, I have to go. I kind of use the analogy of, if you had a cell phone that you just constantly kept charging around the clock, it's kind of bad for the battery. I kind of just want to unplug, kill my battery for a minute, and then, give it a good charge and go from there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And we talked a little bit about it out at the double GDR and just what that looks like. It's funny because Mid-State has its own family, and usually that's always surrounded by people that are local to the race. And Mid-States is kind of different in the way that, like yourself from Montana or somebody like Doug Moore from Michigan, Aaron Dana from New York, its community is, and I just realized this kind of this last like year or two, that its community is spread out all over the place. So how do you think a race that's in a very small town in Tennessee is able to draw a crowd from all over the nation?
I think, it's gotten more notoriety in the last few years. More people are finding out about it. There's a good documentary about it. But I think once people really go there and they experience it for themselves, not just the race, but kind of what happens within you being a participant in that race. And, when your day is done, I think everybody has the same feeling of, there's always more we can give out there. And I think that's what really keeps people coming back.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And you being from Montana, you've also run Crazy Mountain. What's your favorite ultra, Eric? If you could pick one.
Oh, I mean, I'd say mid stages for like the community and, just like there's no other place like it. That family that race brings together is pretty unique. But just as far as something that's like really epic and out there, I'd say it'd have to be Crazy Mountain.
Yeah, and I think I kind of missed you there at the end.
Yeah, Crazy. I
Yeah.
think Crazy is probably like that really epic, wild, real remote. Like I really like that kind of feeling.
Yeah, and I think that's where Ultra does for like we either like it because of like the uniqueness or the community. And like that's where I'm struggling to find like which one's my favorite between something like Cocodona and Mid-State. Because it's so different, where one of them's like a complete adventure, you're alone a ton, and then the other one's like you're so tight packed into literally 1 mile and have to line up with people, but they bring like me the same amount of gratefulness. So I'm just trying to like figure out why it's like that.
Right. I think it's kind of hard to, like pick favorites because like you said, like every race has got its own kind of feeling to it and its own unique, takeaways and lessons. But yeah, they're all different. Like there's so many I love, it's hard to just pick, you know, top three or whatnot.
Yeah. And speaking of Cocodona, I know you talked about getting in the lottery this year. Were you in there? I know you didn't get selected because I watched the whole thing for absolutely no reason, but did you get in? Like,
No, no, didn't get in. Emily didn't get in either, but that's okay. Rejection's protection. There's other things that'll be on the plate, and we'll both toe the line there eventually.
yeah, well, you get an extra token for next year then, right? Because you didn't get selected.
Yeah, you get an extra ticket for next year, and yeah, hopefully that does the trick before it gets too crazy to get in.
Yeah, dude, I've been looking at 200s for next year, and there's like a new one in Oregon that's 230 miles, and one in Maine that's 208 miles, and they both like in July and September. I'm thinking about them.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I might have to like put you in on one of them and see if you wanna try too. I don't know. These it scares me to do one for the first time. Like, yeah, inaugural years can be crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let me know what you find, man.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to look at next year anyway, so
It's funny too when I start to look at next year and I want to like plan out a whole year, and then I look at last year and I was supposed to do all these things and I didn't do hardly any of them, and now it's like what's the point of even planning a whole year anymore? It seems like a waste of time.
right, right.
Yeah. But okay. Moving on, Eric. So you've been running since 2017, a ton of time in the ultra community, almost 10 years. How'd you get your start? How'd you find it?
Um, so I started out running like half marathons, full marathons, um, and I kind of just wanted something a little bit harder after I'd done probably like my fifth road marathon. So I kind of thought the natural progression was triathlons. So I went to my friend, she had a full Ironman. We went there to crew her on, and I started kind of looking into it, and it seemed like a pretty expensive endeavor. And I think just through YouTube, I ended up finding things like the Hurt 100 and like Ginger Runner, and didn't even know like trail running of that kind of distance was a thing. So I found a 50 miler. It was kind of close to home. I was living in Florida at the time. So yeah, drove up to Alabama, ran my first 50 miler, had a great day out there, and kind of fell in love with that community. So just kind of started from there.
Yeah. And the community is always what draws us all in. It's the same thing for me. Like I was lucky enough where well, I went to Strolling Gym and ran the half marathon where I was exposed to ultra marathon runners, but then went to Mid State and ran an ultra marathon, and I was like, okay, like this is it's a different thing. Everybody's super kind and uplifting. Where I think we both know in the road running community, it can be kind of cutthroat. And I mean, where do you think that difference? Like, why do people draw that line in the sand where it's like road running is competitive? People don't talk, not during the race, not really before the race, and then you have an ultra community where people are eating snacks and telling jokes, and it's a different thing. And I just wonder how that happens.
I've never been able to really put my finger on it, but I don't know if it's something about just the overall difficulty with time. I even noticed it this year at Georgia Death Race when the actual race started. People were a lot quieter those first 20 miles, and then each increment of 10 miles, people got chattier and chattier, and by the time like you're just having a full-on conversation at the end. I think it has something to do with just the total time out there that people kind of start warming up to these people around them of, hey, this guy's not going to be next to me for 30 minutes. He's going to be next to me for like 3 hours. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, mid state seems to be a little different though, and I think that's just because the people there's less and less people, right? Because it's like the farther you get in, the less conversations seem to be going on.
Right.
Yeah, it gets real quiet, day two and so on. A little more about that than I do. But I always just wonder like why is the like I'm saying even the start lines of trail ultras are just a little more chatty than any road marathon or half marathon I've ever seen. And I just remember at Cocodona, like everybody's standing around, everybody's having a good time. You ready? Like it's like I guess maybe you have to be more locked in because you're just gonna run 3 hours flat and then you're done, and you're trying to save your breath. Maybe I don't know. Where at something long, you're gonna have more time to slow down? I really don't know either. I'm just trying to figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next on the calendar for you?
Next up, we got Uray 100 in July. So we're gonna bring the whole family down there, bring the kiddos down there. I've got Brian Baker and Deanna Doan coming out to crew me for that one. So that's going to be quite the challenge, but I'm looking really forward to it actually.
Yeah, and what is Ure? For people that don't know, there's a huge appeal inside the ultra community for Ure, but I think it's kind of niche. Like I know I didn't know much about it until you started telling me about it, and then I looked into it. Becca Jones was supposed to go, so I was like, okay, like so if you could just enlighten the people on like what is
Yeah,
Ure
sure.
100 and what is the draw to it?
Yeah, so Uray 100 is in southwest Colorado in the San Juan Mountains. Just the town itself is at like 8,000 feet. There's a ton of climbing. There's over 42,000 feet of climbing for the 102 miles, and it has a 52-hour cutoff, which is pretty unique. I think there's only one other race that has that long of a cutoff, and that's really for the difficulty of it. And I think the really cool thing that I've always liked about Uray, um, there's no bells and whistles. It's just something really hard and challenging, and it's kind of right on that like edge of like what's possible for like a normal 100 miler. There's no UTMB points, there's no Western or Hard Rock qualifier. There's not even a finisher's arch. There's just two cones that you run through at the end, and he gives you a piece of metal at the end for doing something really hard.
Yeah, so just super like dirtbag 100, then I guess you would say. Like, are the aid stations pretty scarce as well as you know it?
The aid stations are pretty well stocked. So the way that course is kind of set up, it's basically tagging the summit of a mountain, and there'll be a hole punch up there with a different shape. So you punch your bib to prove that you went there, and then you come down, you hit the next summit, you come down, you hit the next summit, you come down. There's a couple passes you go over. It's pretty easy to crew people there. It's one of the more crew accessible races. But most of that's because you're just tagging so many summits. You're hitting those same aid stations when you come down from those summits. Um, yeah, super challenging, but yeah, there's a lot of you. I think the high points like over 13,000 feet. There's really bad weather, so it's going to be hot at some points. It's going to be cold. There's going to be lightning. There's going to be hail. Just kind of luck of the draw of whatever the mountains decide out there.
Yeah, and that's what makes it fun sometimes. And so how are you training for something like that? It seems like it's probably close to mid-state style training or any sort of mountain training, but what are you doing specifically right now?
So right now I'm just kind of seeking out. Luckily, I live somewhere where there's mountains right outside my front door. So I'll just try to find the steeper routes and just kind of do repeats on those. Just a nice steady hiking up and kind of controlled coming down, real sure footing, but just kind of moving at a steady, slower pace. I do a lot of heart rate training with my coach, Becca Jones.
Hmm.
That's always kind of been my go-to style of training, especially when it came to like something like mid-state. So just kind of translating that over, doing a lot of strength work just to kind of help with durability of the muscles so they don't get too beat up on downhills. Becca's also had me doing a lot of ruck hiking. So yeah, I'll just have my hunting pack with the waist across, with the band across my waist, and just practice hiking with a little bit of weight, even slower pace going up and down, and yeah, just trying to make my body as durable as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense to me. Have you seen the David Roche say no to rhabdo training where he like climbs up a bunch and then hammers downhills and it's supposed to like activate your fast twitch muscles and tear them and then you do it like once a week. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I've been trying it, so we'll we'll see what happens. But yeah, I saw him doing that like after I ran Cocodona, and I was like, well, I'm gonna give this a shot. So I've been just kind of bombing some downhills, and like once a week, and then letting everything recover and then go back. So who knows? But yeah,
Yeah,
you said heart rate training. So the first time I got exposed to this was when I paced you for the double GDR, and you were at 145. So tell the people like what that looks like how strict you are with it, and then what it's kind of done for you.
sure. So what my coach has me do, so we'll pick a number. We'll say it's 140 for this run. So when I'm climbing, it can get above that 140, but it's more for downhill running and running flatter sections. If my heart rate gets above that 140, we walk until it comes back down. So I'll start to run when it's good, and then once it gets to, like 137, 138, I'll already start to back it off so we don't go too far over the 140. And then it'll come down even faster, so I can kind of recover a little bit faster and run those at like a nice, easy, calmer pace. And what that's done for my training, it's kind of, somebody used the analogy one time of, if your body's like a car engine, it's like putting an extra cylinder on the car constantly. So you have all these cylinders. So when it's really time to run and run faster, it's a lot easier to do that versus, redlining so much all the time in your training. Just always kind of dialing it back and keeping it a little bit slower. But that also helps a lot with like recovery from the run. I'm always able to absorb like whatever workout it is a lot easier. I don't feel beat up after my runs. I'm ready to like train the next day a lot quicker than I would if I was running something a lot harder. But that was something that took a really long time. When I first started doing that, there was a lot more walking than there was running. I'm normally a faster runner, so it was pretty humbling to do these heart rate efforts and start out doing like 13-minute miles, 14-minute miles. But eventually, after a lot of patience and a lot of time, that turned into being able to run like a 9:30 pace at, like a 1:30 heart rate and, stay there and felt like I could run forever. And that was really something that happened kind of around like that second year of coaching, like my third year at Midstate. That's when I was able to start running a lot better and a lot more efficiently at a slower pace and lower heart rate.
Yeah, it seems to be working. Like you've had a lot of success with it in the last few years, and I just don't think a lot of people run that way yet. So it may be something that I don't know if it's like breaking edge technology that Becca's doing or anything like that. But at the same time, like I know that you're using it and it's working, and I've been trying to use it. But I'm in the same boat as you. Like I'm not fast by any means, but I think I'm a little impatient still, and I like to have fun just running hard. I like to push my heart rate. Like I like to feel spent, and that could probably hurt me in the long run. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, so looking at something like mid-state, if you're looking at training for that, like what advice do you have somebody training for it? We probably have a whole year until anybody's going to run it again. But what was your most impactful type of training you think that led to the results you've had out there?
I think it was just a lot of time on feet and trying to do different things. So I think a lot of that heart rate training, so a lot of like slower, quality miles versus quantity. The year I won Mid-State, I don't think I was running more than like 35, 40 miles a week. But all of those were very intentional workouts of just trying to tag as much summits as I could, trying to honestly climb as much as I could, efficiently without slowing down, but also did a lot of heat training. I rode my bike a lot just to do something a little bit different, something that was lower impact, but I could still kind of get my heart rate up a little bit. But yeah, really just spending a lot of time climbing. One thing I used to do was I would try to seek out something. So say like within like 0.55 of a mile, I would try to find something that was 340 feet of gain around here or close to that. So it would be half mile up, I'd get all the gain, and then I'd, get all the descent, and I'd always try to do that within that 20-minute interval out here. So that was something that always kind of helped trying to mimic mid-state as much as possible, kind of use my car as like a little aid station for downtime and try to kind of start on that 20-minute timer. That was something that helped.
Yeah, definitely. And I know one thing that you and I share is our sobriety. And I know that my sobriety has helped in my training a lot and then also in my efforts, my results. Even when I'm out there, like I'm thinking of the things that I've given up and how hard I've worked to be where I'm at. And that's always one thing I call back to. And so I'm just wondering in your journey, like how has your sobriety, I wouldn't say helped in your training, but really just made you grateful for the training and for the running.
Oh man, I think sobriety was one of those big wake up moments for me. Like my third year at Mid-State, I was the assist, and we had broken the previous course record the year before, and we went past that. And like I trained so hard that year, and that was kind of my wake up was I still needed to do something different. I needed to be more than just a good athlete. I needed to be a better person. So shortly after that, I decided to get sober. I kind of yeah, I went for a big hike in the woods and honestly cried on the mountain and was talking to God. And I was like, I need help because either I'm going to get help now or I'm going to get help 10 years from now and it's going to be way worse. And it was like a light switch went off, and like I haven't, it's been almost 4 years now. But after that, like, me being sober kind of helped change a lot of things in my life. I mean, one, you're not spending the money on that, but I wasn't looking for that comfort from, that alcohol was giving me. And it kind of put me in a weird spot where like I had to confront all these things that I've been like pushing away and ignoring. And because I did that, within that year, like, I started working on getting my kids to get enrolled in school and to move from Tennessee to come live with me. So I spent that whole next year like looking up what I'd have to do to get them in school. I worked multiple jobs, really got on my feet and had them all ready and registered to go to school the following year. And, that ended up also being the year I won Mid-State. Kind of when I decided like it's not just about who I want to be and how I want to perform in a race. Like I've got to perform in the real world too. Like there has to be a balance. And I think it was good to kind of find the bridge to be, a good athlete and, a better person.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's just that loop exposes you. And I was talking to Tim about it, and Tim had a moment where he felt the same. And my second year was the same way. I was still drinking, and I knew after that I had to change something. And you and I, we've shared stories, and I just love, I don't know what it is about that race, but it exposes who you are. And John spoke about it last week about, some people are hollow trees, when they fall over, that's when you see inside and there's nothing there, so you have to build the inside of yourself. And I think that's kind of what you're explaining. How would you just, how could you help somebody get there? Like, what do you think it takes? Do you think it has to be personal? Do you think we can help people get there, or do you think they have to do it as an individual only?
I think there's, that could, be either hand. I think there's, people do have to have that, look in the mirror with themselves, and they've got to want it. They've got to want it deep down. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But I think there's also a level of humility that we have to be able to accept and allow ourselves to be vulnerable to ask for help from other people. I was listening, to the podcast you did with Tim, and he said that same thing. Like, I was always too proud to ask for help, even though like I know I needed it. Because I also had this mentality of, well, I put myself here, like I'm gonna get myself out by my own 2 feet. And it's like, yeah, maybe you can, but I think you're gonna get there a lot faster with the help from others. And I think, I say anybody who's really looking to make a change in their life to not be afraid to ask for help. Like there's plenty of people who've been through a similar situation, you and I included in that. We might be willing to share some insight or something, but like, sobriety can be very isolating, and you can feel very alone, like you're giving up a lot of stuff that's been very comfortable for a long time. But I think you can find comfort in something new by, reaching out and asking for help from friends.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think that there's also something about ultra running that makes you want to be better all the way around, maybe just running in general, but I know that I went from running to finding faith to finding sobriety, and all those things happened. I think just the exposure of physical struggle makes you realize how weak I think you are internally. I don't know how they translate, but that's what it seems like for me. I wonder if you have like any same experiences where, for me, I go on long runs with no headphones, and it would exposed in my own head who I was, and who I used to be, and things that like you were talking about, like I wasn't coming to terms with, like I was never acknowledging what I've done or who I was, and then it brought it out of me. So I wonder if you have like a similar story to that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, I always, road running, I always used to train with headphones on. And my first trail race ever was Pikes Peak Marathon, and they had a very strict no headphones rule. So I kind of had this moment of, what am I going to do? So I ended up doing that race, and it took me way longer than I thought, but it was the longest I'd ever ran without headphones. And honestly, I enjoyed it so much more. Like I had a terrible race, but I had so much time to kind of break down thoughts one by one. And like that didn't all come to me on that day, but like I never listened to music after that. Like I might do it once in a blue moon if I'm like doing a road run or like a speed workout, but like when I'm in the mountains, like man, I just like that silence. I like to be able to like break down my thoughts one at a time without all that noise from, that background noise from the day that kind of distracts us from, internal reflection. And I feel like I've got to really ask myself a lot of questions, especially since I've gotten sober. Like I've had so much time to speak to myself or speak to God in the mountains and kind of just, continue to challenge myself like internally and like ask myself like, who do I want to be? Like, what's this story like I want to tell? And it's become so much more than like how I want to do in a race. It's really just like I call it my hippie journey right now with running. Like, I'm just really like searching for like my soul out there and just trying to bring as much joy into my life and in people's lives who are around me and close to me. Like, how can I bring joy to them through the things that I do every day?
No, yeah, I think that's great. And you're super accomplished too. So I think there becomes a point where, and I don't think I'm accomplished at all, but like I feel like I'm starting to turn the page on caring about if I do well and more about like who do I meet and how can I affect. And that seems to be exactly what you're explaining. And it seems like, I don't know, maybe tell me if I'm wrong, but your results are getting better or they feel like they're getting better with the mentality of it's not for me anymore.
Right. It's for something bigger. Like the year, like I was drinking so much when the year where I was the assist. And I look back now and I tell myself like how grateful I am that I didn't win that year because I think it would have just ultimately enabled me to have my cake and eat it too of, hey, you won your dream race, like you had like an excellent day out there, like but you can still drink because you did it. I'm really glad that I didn't get it. Like I learned so much that year from being the assist, almost more than I learned from winning it. Um, I really found my limit as far as like how much my body could push, at that given time and at that year, who Eric was at that time. Like it really taught me like something else had to change and, nothing changes unless something changes, right? So like I made a really good change and it led for a lot of, success down the road and like my life accelerated in every possible direction that it could have once I gave that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And where does your faith play a factor? Like not just while racing, but in training or just in life? Like how important is your faith to you?
I think it's really taught me to be grateful for the small things. Like you could always look at, you could have a comparison war if you wanted as far as like, your friends around you and, the amount of wealth they have or the kind of job they have, the things they have. But I've really learned to just kind of appreciate less. And, I've learned it's not too hard to put like a smile on my kid's face. Like it doesn't take a lot. I look around, I'm very happy for all the things I have. I'm really grateful that, God didn't give up on me like when I was really like in low points in my life and he could have. And, my relationship with him wasn't the best, but like he was still there when like I was ready to talk and do something different. So I think that's the one thing I'm most grateful for was like his love and his strength and like he never gave up on me, even at times when I felt I may have given up on myself, but he was there and like my relationship got so much better with him. I spent a lot more time talking with him after I got sober and I always grew up like religious, but my parents were kind of like I don't want to say like the hypocritical Christians, they were always like you know, still drinking or, doing drugs, but, they went to church every Sunday kind of deal, like we weren't really practicing and putting God first, like in our home, like we said we were, but it didn't really ever like feel like that. So it's always kind of been this different way for me to kind of reacquaint myself with religion and my faith as I've gotten older and like ask like, what do I want? Like, how do I want to raise my kids? Like, how do I get them to know the Lord's love, like from an early age? And it's been a struggle, but like we're doing it. So like,
Yeah, it's hard to explain something you can't see, and that's where faith is like you share your experiences, but nobody can understand or I don't think can truly believe in God until you feel that Holy Spirit into you. You feel him move you, but what you speak about with he was there even when I wasn't there for him. Like that's something I think about all the time. Like I don't even understand how he's so good, because it's like I don't feel like I deserve any of this, and especially before I found it. So yeah, and so also like with that, it's so prevalent in the ultra community, and why do you think there's a correlation between long distance running, I mean super long distance running, and faith?
There is a lot of that. I think, like you said, like how can you know something, like you can't see or, like you can't prove exists? Like it is faith. So I think some of these goals that we set for ourselves in ultra running, it's like, say if you were in train to run 100 miles, you're not doing a 70 mile, 80 mile, training run. You're normally running about like 20, 25 for your long run, but it's like, how can you reach 100 if you've never ran 100? It's like it's faith in the training. You have to know that this work that you're putting in will ultimately lead you to where you want to go. And I think that's kind of the parallel between like, like faith and like our love in the Lord is like, we can't see it, but like there's signs of it all around us. If we look hard enough, like there's a lot to be grateful for. And like some of that's just existing independently, some of that was put there on purpose. But I think having faith that like we're still moving towards something for a greater purpose, it's kind of similar to if I'm putting in this work for this ultra, like I'll get to that finish line.
Yeah. No, I like that. I just know the farther I get into a race, the more I feel close to God. And I think Cam said something like that on his Mountain Outpost interview. I was just like I was right there, but he's like the more pain I'm in, the closer I feel to God. And I felt that. It's like when I don't feel like I can move anymore, I feel like He can move me. I remember at one point just remembering that, like just thinking in my head, if Jesus Christ can die on the cross for the terrible person that I am, then I can continue to move this broken body across the finish line. And I just told myself that for miles. And do you have anything that you tell yourself when it gets tough?
Like I think one of the things like I tell myself like like our soul's in us, right? And I try to tell myself, like, the soul does not feel pain. The body feels pain. The body is a vehicle for the soul to drive. The vehicle feels the pain. Like, our existence here on this life, in this planet's temporary, but like our soul's forever. And like our soul doesn't feel pain now. Like it won't feel pain when we're gone. Like that's kind of how I look at it. Like I try to tell myself, like, when it gets really hard in a race, like, this is my soul driving the vehicle. Like I try to look at my body like it's not real. And like when I say that, like I'm not trashing it, but like when it's uncomfortable, like I'm not dwelling on it. I'm not bringing that attention to it. I try to run outside myself as if I'm like looking down on me running. Um, but that's what I do.
Yeah. You also have one thing you told me before Cocodona, and we talked about a lot at Double GDR. Keep saying yes. So if you could just explain that, like I know I use that as well. So I'd like you to just explain what that means to everybody listening.
Yeah. You know, you have a mission. With GDR, it was we're running 148-ish miles. Like we're gonna say yes to that. Like if it's gonna be hot, we're gonna say yes. Like we're gonna keep moving. We're gonna control our attitude. Like we can, we're gonna choose how we decide to go forward. And it's hard. We're gonna lean in. We're gonna lean into that. We're gonna say yes. Like if I'm having a good day, like we're gonna lean into that. Like whatever it is that comes up, we're gonna say yes. Like we have a blister, even if it's that, we're gonna say yes. We're gonna fix it. Like everything that comes up, we're gonna say yes. We're gonna lean into it. We're gonna keep pushing. Like we don't want to. I so when GDR, I told Becca, that second go, if you finish that race under 24 hours, you have a 25-hour cutoff. If you finish it under 24, you get that Western States qualifier. I was so determined just to finish this goal that I've been working towards for 3 years. I'm like, we're just going to get it done. And I told Becca, I didn't care about the Western States qualifier. I didn't care about it. We're here to complete this distance. Like even if it was the worst day ever, I was so determined that we are going to complete those miles. If I'm flying from Montana to go to Georgia, we're getting this done.
Hmm.
And she told me, she's like, no, screw that. Like, I don't want to hear, oh, we're just gonna get it done. Like she told me, like you have to be accountable to your level of fitness and you need to lean in. Like if Western States is on the table, reach up and grab it, go for it, you know? So like that kind of flipped a switch in my head of like, we don't have to drag ourselves. Like we can say yes. Like if we're having a good day, like let's say yes. If we're not having a good day, let's move forward as efficiently as we possibly can. And like seconds are minutes and minutes are miles. Let's keep moving. So that's kind of what saying yes is.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I kind of even thought about, I remember I thought about it recently, just keep saying yes to the next step, to the next mile, to the next aid station. You know, whatever that thing was, like making it digestible, I was like, I'm just going to say yes to whatever that next small piece of movement is, you know, whatever that looks like. Um,
Yeah, it's whatever you have to do in this mile to set you up for success for that next mile. Like that's the only mile you have to run is the mile you're currently in. The miles past that don't really matter, but if I can do something in this mile to make that next mile better, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's perfect. And so with GDR, that's your longest run at 148 miles. So I just recently had my longest run as well, and I'm in this space of the depression or the anxiety of how do I like what's next? The feeling of I've done so much and it was such a big effort, and now to get the same endorphins or serotonin rush or dopamine hit, like I know I have to put in a similar and or more effort than what I've done. And that can be hard to wrestle with. So I'm wondering, you know, how you wrestle with that feeling with something like a course record at mid state or the 148 at double GDR. I'm assuming you have the same type of feelings and just how you deal with them.
Right. I mean, I think, I've always kind of planned like my race calendar, like, about 2 years ahead, just always kind of looking for like what that next big challenge would be. Um, I guess if you're looking at from like a number standpoint, you race something that's substantially a lot more climbing, it's 10,000 more feet of climbing versus like hard rock. Um, so even with what I ran at the double Georgia Death race, there's still more climbing at Ouray. I did the 50, which had about 25,000 feet. I did that, in 2019. So there's still more climbing to be had out there. Like I know what those mountains look like, but I think it's a good challenge just to kind of keep you honest. And like, I've done hard efforts at mid-state or with Georgia Death Race or like Cruel Jewel, things like that, and I think just kind of always looking for that next thing that's a little bit harder. It's not being happy with what you just did, but it's like I want something else that's going to challenge me and keep me humble and keep me honest with, maybe you're not as good as you thought you were. Like maybe you need to go test it like on a different terrain. And it's not about like, proving to anybody like how good of a runner I am. It's how well like can I execute throughout the day? Like what can I do to make myself as successful as possible, regardless of what a finishing time or placing looks like. I want to know that when I left there, I left no stone unturned. Like that's kind of how I'm looking at my running now. Like especially with like big challenges like that and trying to find the next best thing. I want to find something that's scary, but I want to give it the respect that that course deserves and show up like the best version of me on that day as I possibly can.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. And I was just, thinking last man standings too, where they say like nobody wins because, the people that quit, they didn't get to win and the winner doesn't reach their ultimate potential. So when you won mid-state, like does it leave some sort of feeling like this year that you want the record to be broken, therefore like you have another goal at that race specifically?
So like kind of to go back what you said, like like first doesn't really get to figure out their limit. The other people don't also get to figure out their limit. It's really second place. Like the record set by second place. The last man standing is just getting one more lap. So I really think it's the assist that really dictates that race. And I think they're the one that walks away with, the biggest lessons learned because they are the one pushing to their limit and they can't complete that next loop. So like, my time with Aaron, and I've said this a couple times, but I didn't know I think we got kind of spoiled with Mid-State, and every year it was just we were always breaking the record in the beginning, and then it slowed down for 2 years and it hasn't been touched. Um, until Georgia Death Race, that was the farthest I ran. So like I always kind of wish like I was coming in really fast on those loops, like I had time to hang back and maybe help Aaron get a couple more laps, and who knows, that could have turned it around. Um, but it's really weird, man. Like when you're with someone as long as him and I were running together, I call it blood in the water. You see that person start to waver and like your adrenaline kicks in. Like it's like, I want to seal this deal, and you start running faster. I wish I would have had a little bit more control to stay back and help him and maybe come in at like 18, 19 minutes. I didn't need a much time for a turnaround, so I kind of wish I would have held back, and, maybe we could have pushed it a little bit farther back then. But like, you've been running for like 41 hours. You're not really thinking sharp like that. And, I'd been running for 4 years. Like I just wanted to like finally have my day in the sun, but I really think it's, second place who's really the one that's going to like decide when that day's over. So like my advice to anybody to listen to this who's running it this year or ever thinking about running, if like you get to be those final two and it could be your day, like help second go as far as they can go. Not just for them, but like for everybody in that race. Like you don't know when you're gonna get to run that far again, might be.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, just are you hoping the record gets beaten, like so that there's a new benchmark?
I do. Like I say that very like selflessly. Like it's exciting. I've been there every year. Like I've watched all those records get set each year, and like I want to see what's possible for the course. And I think we haven't gotten there yet. I couldn't really tell you what I think that time would ultimately be, because somebody could come and like smash that. I want to see a good group of people with good character be the ones to set that new record, because Mid-State's just, there's a different kind of runner out there. It's a different kind of community. It's a different sense of togetherness. And I think like, every year that list of people who could, push those numbers, like it's always there, and I think we've really learned in the last 2 years, between super, super hot year and then a super wet year, we've really seen how much weather is going to dictate the day for everybody. No matter how much experience you've had out there or how much beginner's luck you're going to have on your first year, the weather's going to play a huge, huge part in it. But like, I want to see it get broken, just because I'm kind of bored. Like it hasn't happened for a couple of years. I was expecting to get broken the next year. I didn't expect it to be sitting there, but like that record's not for me. Like I want to see that record from me and Aaron. I want to see it get beat, and I want to see it get beat by like the right person who's going to kind of set the standard of who's got to be the next person to come back around and, challenge that number. But it takes a group of people to get there. And, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to kind of see it from this end. And, I'm definitely having a little bit of FOMO watching it, but like, I think that's going to be something good. I think that's going to be something good that sparks something inside. And plus, like, I want to kind of challenge myself in some different ways until it's time to come back there.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying. And this year, there's a different vibe to the race. A little bit of it is the names, but the vibe that I'm getting is like this mid-state veterans versus the like all-star rookies is kind of how it feels to me. Are you getting that same vibe for this year?
A little bit. And I think that's going to be kind of the cool thing, because I think just the difficulty of that course is going to kind of level everybody. I know Harvey's been out there for the 12 hour at Tennessee Mile, but that's kind of a different vibe. Like the weather's a little bit different. It's not that pressure of the timer, and like he's super talented runner, but I'm curious to see how, even that time there translates to, the pressure of the clock with the heat, with the other people. I think it kind of gives everybody like a good fresh start to see who's showing up on that day, because it like the mile doesn't really care about like your ultra sign up or how fast of a runner you are. Somebody said it a long time ago, like a through hiker could win mid-state. I think it's all about like who can move as efficiently as possible. And I think it's kind of cool. Like I want to see more traditional backyard people come in there. I was really excited when Cody Eubanks came there a couple years ago, and I was asking him after his day was up, like, what are the differences? How well does this translate from your world to this world. And, it seems to be a different game. It's kind of similar, but like, yeah, like I want to see it go far out there. And I think this is just a good chance for, some bigger names to maybe tell their friends. And, like I don't want to see it like super taken over by the elites, but like I do want to see a group of people out there like, with like some normal average Joes. A lot of us have like families and full-time jobs, and like those people go out and absolutely crush the mile year after year. So I think it's cool to bring in some new faces and, change it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that I've done a few backyards to the traditionals, and I've done mid-state 3 years. So I just tell people it's like a backyard and fast forward. And just everything is at a times three, and that's it. The amount of time you have, because usually I have 10 minutes at a regular backyard. This one I have three, so I mean, that's at least how I've translated it, is just 3x as fast. And then, yeah, what you're talking about with the big names, I think that it's really exciting because if we look at your year, there were 5 or 6 people that ran over 100 miles that year. Since then, there's been one person, Aaron, that's run
Yeah.
over 100 miles out there over the course of 2 years. So this year, I think, is really exciting because you have what you're saying, the elites, and then you have the people like us that have run a ton of miles out there. And I think that we're really hungry to get to 100 miles and to prove that we can hang. And I think that you could see your biggest group ever, depending on weather, run over 100 miles at this race this year.
Right. And I think if you look back historically, I don't think there's more than like 10 or 11 people total who've hit 100, and this is year 7 now. And, with that 20-minute timer, like you can't run faster than that. Like that's it. It's a 10-hour 50K every 10 hours, and like you're gonna have to manage a lot. And like you said, kind of with those breaks with like a traditional backyard, there's a lot more time to, correct things, troubleshoot, work on your runner. I think David Compton and Matt Williams, they said it real good on there. If you have a bad loop, if you have minutes to fix this, you don't have a lot of time to fix things. And usually once people kind of start slipping off their pace, they don't have but a few more laps in them after that. So a lot has to go right to have the day you want. It's not, you can't really set a numbers goal out there. You just have to be in that mile and run it as well as you can, and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, on its face, it's an easy loop to complete in 20 minutes, especially for anybody that's done any sort of, good mountain running or anything like that. But it eventually wears on you. I don't think that I personally ever get bored out there. I think it's just allowing whatever, pains and struggles you have to take over. And then that's when you start getting slower and the doubt creeps in, and then you just spiral and you're out. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, fueling wise, like I came with a super strategic fueling method last year that I'll be implementing again this year, but I'm wondering what yours is or was for mid state.
Mine with Midstate was like I wanted variety. So I wanted a variety of drinks and I wanted a variety of food, and I just wanted it to be out and I wanted to see it. I didn't want people coming up and asking me what I wanted. I didn't want to think about what I wanted. Like my only job was to run. My job wasn't to think. So like if people told me something, like if my crew was like, eat this, I was like, yes, I'm going to eat this. Take these salt pills. Yes, let's cool you off. Let's put your feet up. Let's change your shoes. Yes, yes, yes. Anything they said, I would say yes to. I didn't want to have to think about anything. So like I would have something sweet, something salty, and I'd have my salt pill. So like I'd take a salt pill, I'd come in, I would take a drink, whether it was coconut water, Coke, water, um, some kind of electrolyte. I just had variety out. So I just picked and grabbed what I wanted on that loop. It was probably different each time, but always just kind of taking something a little bit. And I try to use like the analogy of like, like a gas tank. Like instead of like filling up when I get to like a quarter tank, like I'm gonna fill up when I get to 3/4 of a tank. And I'm always just gonna kind of keep that gas full in my tank. So like I'm just running with a better engine, more efficient.
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium because I know if you watch the documentary, they kind of hone in on it's a eating contest, and I think some people kind of over carb load, and then because it is a big effort, but depending on the weather, it doesn't have to be that crazy. You don't have to get 90 carbs an hour or something crazy like that. And so I'm just wondering like how you manage it. Like I figured it out in year 3, at least, I think I did. And so I'm wondering how and when you figured it out.
I mean, I think I kind of figured it out like year three, just kind of how to eat out there. And it wasn't, it's there's help in a mile. Like once you leave the corral, like there's another aid station in a mile. Like it's how far can you run when there's help every mile? So if you kind of think about that, like it's not like you're saying so long to your crew, like I'll see you in a couple hours. Like you're gonna see them in like 16, 17 minutes. So you don't always have to eat like a full mouthful of food or a full meal. Like at one point, I think I had like a bowl of pasta and I would just take like a mouthful. Like there were a couple loops, yeah, definitely like I didn't want to eat, but I've been eating the whole time. So I think the more you're just constantly infusing just a little bit, like you could skip one loop, but as long as like you're taking in something, you definitely don't want to go like an hour without eating out there. Even though it seems like you could, like I think just a little bit, like a little bite, of something each time you come through is going to help you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Do you have any specific gear that you would recommend for anybody? Like this is a must-have for mid-state.
A cordless fan. I think a cordless
Really?
fan is the best thing you can have out there. Because I'll have like a separate bucket for just like I'll just have cooling towels. I'll drape them kind of over my arms, across my abdomen, behind my neck. And those are already out. I've got my fan clicked on, so the second I sit down, that fan's already blowing on me. I'm just draping the cooling towels over me. I've already got my variety of food. I can just stay quiet. I can just grab what I need, listen to whatever my crew's telling me. But I think the cordless fan's good. It just helps. It's just so hot out there. I just think it's something to help you cool off a little bit quicker, especially if you have those cooling towels. I would definitely say cordless because there's not anywhere to really plug stuff in the corral. And in the beginning, like it's kind of hectic. The less stuff that people could potentially trip over in there, the better. And it's also really good for like when you're taking those 12-hour intermissions and you're trying to lay flat and close your eyes, having that fan on you just to help get your core body temperature down, I think helps a ton.
Yeah, and I know something else. I mean, if you're in the big corral, you can't really have this right off the rip, but the zero gravity chair, I picked that up from you, and that I love that thing.
Oh yeah, that was so nice. Justin Ford had that my fourth year. And yeah, it was definitely once people cleared out and you had a little more space. It was so nice to just prop my feet up and I'm sure my feet are swollen just from being on my feet for that long, but it just felt good to get my feet a little bit higher than my head. I had plenty of time. You could even like kind of close your eyes just for a couple seconds, like if you have time. Um, Definitely helps.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Did you also see that Cody is coming back? I forgot to ask you when you were talking about it, but he's coming back this year.
I did see that. I heard that on I think one of John and Becca's podcasts, and I sent him a message. I'm like, "Hey, you're going back?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, Becca wrote me in." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." So I'm excited he's going back. He was really good to watch, and I'm curious to see like I always like the time in between when somebody runs mid-state until they come back. I really like to see the positive influence it's had on them and how it kind of changes how they run there. Because you could be, a successful backyarder or mountain or really fast road guy. Like mid-state's gonna make you change how you run. Like if you want to run well out there, like you're gonna have to change a lot. So I'm really curious to see what his year looks like. Like Nicholas is another one I've always loved to watch because each year he had to like sit with that and then come back and each year he got better and he got stronger and he's quiet, like he's not like on social media. Like I'm curious to see what he's been doing since this last year and I'm excited to see him back out there. So
Yeah, he's not coming this year. He pulled out because of like cross country conflict or
oh
something like
no,
that. Yeah.
I spoke too soon. Never mind.
Yeah. No, it's been rough. Like the people that have been in and out have been really rough. I'm also really interested, like you spoke about David Compton. Like this is supposed to be his A race this year. So David's like a super talented runner. I just wonder what he can do out here with like pure focus on it.
Yeah, no Yeti 50 miler before that one, David.
Yeah, the week before.
Oh man, I mean that was a killer race, but oh dude, you can't do that before mid-state. But he still had a pretty good year that year.
He is
So
last year. He did okay. Yeah, I think he might have got like 40 or 50 miles. I know he was hurting early and he told me, I was like, yeah, dude, I mean, what do you expect, man? You just blasted like an 8 hour 50 or something like that, maybe faster than that, you know?
yeah, he's a strong runner. I want to see him out there fresh on fresh legs.
Yeah, I do too. He's awesome, dude. And he's a great dude. He's great company. And that's also what I like about all these newer people, these elites. Like, they're all the nicest dudes too. Everything I've seen from Mark, I mean, Harvey is just like the nicest guy ever. And so I think it's the right people to also be like, if we slowly start to trickle in some of these big names, I think we've got the right ones this year.
I think so too, and I'm excited for the mile. I'm excited for everyone to get out there. I'm excited to like kind of watch the live stream, as much as I can on my end. But like, yeah, there's definitely the good group of people that we want to see out there, and they're more than capable as far as runners and like personal challenges they've done in running. So it's cool for a lot of people from all over the place once again to come to Franklin, Tennessee, and like duke it out in the middle of summer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's move off of mid state, but I got to get your top three,
Yeah.
Eric. You got to pick three. I had Tim pick three. You got to pick three.
Oh man.
I feel like three's
In,
generous,
in no
though. You know.
particular in no particular finishing order.
Yeah, that's fine. Just three people you really think, like, if you had to put money down on three people to win it, which three?
Oh man, all right. So let's see. Aaron Dana. Um, I'd like to see Harvey out there just because he's been out there before, and I think he could go pretty far. And I'd say the next one would be either a toss up between Doug Moore or Cody Eubanks.
I like it. I like to see Doug make a deep run, dude. I really
Oh,
would because he's been like on the cutting edge of making that like top five, top three, whatever that thing is for him, like he's so close.
he's so close, man, and I think he's gonna crack the code sooner than later. And like between like how many good years he's had at like Tennessee Mile and Mid State, like he's got the knowledge out there. He's just got to put that mental game to the test on the day. And like I think he's getting real close. So I'd love to see Doug have the day he wants to have out there.
Yeah, he's been working on a ton of that stuff with like cold plunge and other disciplines. And like you said, he like completely changed like Tennessee Mile. Like we tied with 92 miles, so he's getting the feel of it. He's like a vert legend too. If you have him on Strava, guys logging like 20 to 30,000 feet of vert every week. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's unreal, unreal. He's
Yeah.
got the prettiest training block every year. Like I got to try not to look at it.
Yeah, yeah. I hope Doug. I mean, I pray for Doug to have a good race, man. Like he's one of the nicest guys too, and he's been there since I started running it. He's always just been helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Eric. So I always ask one question here, and this will probably I want you to take time to think about it if you need to, but this is the Made New project, and the whole point of the podcast is to find individuals, outliers in different communities that believe they become made new at some point in their life, and I think a lot of us have different ones. But if you were to pick one moment of your life that you became made new, what would that be?
Definitely when my first daughter was born. Holding her and becoming a father. That was the first moment of my life where I kind of realized that like maybe like what I thought was important in my life and the things that I wanted aren't nearly as important or don't have as much value as I have placed on them in the past. And when I realized like I've got this little girl in my arms, like my world kind of came about her and like trying to be the best version of me and be the best dad for her. So really, yeah, fatherhood was the thing that really just changed my life for a completely different direction.
Yeah, how do you think it helps you daily? Because like, so I'm not a father for the listeners that don't know, and so I have no idea what this feels like. But anybody that has kids, they tell me they're like Dylan, you're gonna change once you have kids. Like your whole outlook of life is going to change. So if you could express that, like even to me, like what does that do for you?
I kind of compare it to like pet ownership, like when you have a dog, you have a cat, and like that's what you've had, like, man, you love that dog so much, like that's your baby. Some people call it a fur baby or something. And I remember having a bunch of animals and like that was my life. And then when she came into the world, like it shifted. It wasn't like I love my animals any less, but it very clearly drew the line between like this is a pet and like this is your kid. Like it just reallocated what I thought was important to something else and something brand new, and something like I didn't know how to do in the beginning. There's not really a manual for this, so it was a lot of learning on the fly and adapting, because it was, if I don't do something well, like she's going to suffer the consequence. Like I've got to make sure she's clean and changed and fed, and she can't speak to me. I've got to pick up on all her subtleties and sounds and grunts and groans to know what it is that I've got to provide, and that just kind of started a completely different version of myself as a caregiver. I had to provide, around the clock. It didn't matter how tired I was or what my mood was or what I was doing for the day. Like somebody else had to come first besides me.
Yeah. Do you think that translates into ultra? I mean, it sounds like it does.
I think it does. I've learned, I've tried on a lot of different personas as a runner, I guess we'll say. Like I remember being like a new runner and, making running my entire identity and doing well in races, and like, I wanted to be known for that. Like I wanted to be a pro runner at one point. I was trying real hard to do that. I let a lot of my ego get in the way. But I learned that that was coming with a price. I wasn't putting my family first as much as I should have been. And like I kind of fell off a little bit as far as like doing well in races. And then once I kind of started pulling it away from like how much emphasis I wanted to put on my running, and I put that back into my family, when I gave everything to my family to make sure school's taken care of, healthcare's taken care of, summer camps, after school activities, things they want to do on the weekend, making sure they're taken care of. It helped me find the time for myself of where I can fit into the equation. And, the better taken care of my family is, the more I have like the time for myself to work on my running or my fitness. And I think the better I'm taking care of my family, the better of a runner I can actually be, and the better I can actually perform when it's time.
Yeah. I think we talked a lot about maybe not you and me, but me and Matt and Becca at Double Georgia Death Race about bandwidth and like making sure like your house is in order and like all this stuff translates over to running and to your performances. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about is like we only have so much bandwidth, but if you can do everything efficient, including like your regular home life, like it translates over to your training, like you're gonna figure it out. But if it's all hectic, then it's gonna be hectic. It's gonna be chaos, you know?
Right. If my kids are taken care of, they're happy, all their after school needs are met, like I've got food meal prepped, the house is clean. That gives me a little bit more leeway to go out on my run, and it's not like I go bang out this run and now I've got to come home to all this responsibility I've been putting off. All that stuff's in check. So I can come home from my run, and you know what? I can just eat a meal and sit back down with everybody. Like there's no time being taken away that shouldn't be taken away from my family.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you had one piece of advice to give people, Eric, that you've learned, if you could give one, what do you think it is?
I'd say learning patience and learning how to be grateful in the moment. And I think a lot of that, sometimes we look around at what we're immediately feeling in this emotion or in this season of life, and we tend to compare it to maybe a season that was a little bit easier or things were going our way. And I think we have to remember that, it may seem we may be perceiving the situation around us to be bad, but is it really bad? Like, is there clothes on our back? Is there food in our stomach? Do we have somewhere to sleep tonight? Do we have family and friends that we can reach out to? Like, do we always have God in our lives? I think remembering that sometimes this may be difficult and challenging, but there is another end to it. Like, this will be over and the next trial will come and we'll be tested then too. But I think we have to remember to have faith that we're always being pulled forward, whether that's by us actively, taking a direction, moving in that direction, or, us being passive and just letting the sun go around, the earth go around the sun. Like we're always moving forward with time. But I think the more patient you can be to know that this may be challenging now, but like this is temporary. This will be over before we know it. And we'll look back and say, wow, you remember 5 years ago when XYZ. We're always moving forward. So while we're in the moment now, like we've got to be patient. We got to be grateful for the things that are around us.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Definitely. I love that. Do you have anything else for the folks here? Anything, Eric?
I think like I'm really we'll go back to mid state, but like I'm really excited to see what's out there. And I think I'd say my biggest thing for people out there listening, whether you've run the race or not, maybe you know this, maybe you need a reminder, like don't go counting those miles. Don't don't look for those milestones to check off to feel like you're moving forward. Like no, you are moving forward. You are moving forward because that whistle's blowing. Time is still going as long as that whistle's blowing. You don't need to count the miles. You don't need to look at the screen. The only time you might need to know what time it is, hey, that 12-hour intermission's coming up. Like that's it. Stay in that mile as long as you possibly can. Don't look for those milestones because what happens is sometimes what happens if you go past that? Like, are you going to be like, well, that's good enough for me and kind of bow out? Like, I think it's better to not know where you are and not look for those things and not give yourself that permission to let up, like lean into it. Like, if you don't know where you are on that course, I feel like time goes a lot faster. Time kind of melts away and like you won't feel like you're doing the same 20-minute loop. It feels just more like a continuous effort of moving forward, even though, yeah, there's an aid station every mile. So I would say just don't count the miles out there. Like just stay in the one that you're in.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really hard. Like I think a lot of us we're gonna know what mile we're at and stuff like that. But like what you're talking about, setting milestones is unnecessary out there because there's no other mile that you're gonna run like this. So to think like I need to make it to this point or this is good enough, you have no idea what your capabilities are out there as soon as you surpass them. And if whether that's your first loop or for me it'll be like my 80th loop would be my longest at mid state. It's like you don't know how far you can go. And so that's what's exciting
Right.
about that loop. It's a totally unique format. If you've run a 250, it does not mean you can run 250 out there. Maybe it does. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd say, take your watch if it's got the, inactivity options to scroll just to time, put it to time. That's the only number you need to be concerned about is 20 minutes. You don't need to know the miles, the vert, you just need to know where you are within 20 minutes. So,
Yeah. Yeah, Matt Johnson runs like a Timex. Like he just wears a just a basic Timex and he resets it every 20 minutes.
yeah, he's the perfect example of just having no clue where you are until it's like intermission time,
Yeah.
you know.
He's a sleeper this year, dude. I'm not kidding. He's another like guy that nobody's going to talk about and is very talented.
Oh, Matt's there. Like he is super talented and he's got the heart to that like embodies mid-state and he is absolutely somebody that I think is going to get it one year, 100%. Like we just got to put in like the time and learn about yourself and learn about the course and how you move the best out there. But Matt's got the heart of a lion and like he could absolutely have a fantastic year out there and I definitely hope he does.
Yeah, I do too. It's crazy. I just keep thinking of all these names and every single one of there's probably 12 names where I'm like, "Oh yeah, that guy could win." Like I literally
Right, I
probably
know, like
12.
it's so hard to pick like three or four. Like there's more like it's more like 10 people, but
Yeah,
there's
and
a lot of people
most
with
years it's like 3 or 4 pretty definitive. You're like, "Okay," and then like somebody else kind of sneak in or something, but this year it's like it's anybody's race.
and Luke Bolschweiler's going back too.
Yeah, Luke's back too.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah, he had a bad
Man,
year a couple years ago, but that was that heat year where it was rough for everybody that year.
yeah, that was that fifth year, that was so hot, man.
Yeah,
Aaron's year.
yeah, Aaron's year. That's right. And Aaron looks
Yeah,
like he's
that was
doing crazy heat. Dude, Aaron is scary right now. The training he's doing, he looks good, dude. He looks real good.
oh I'm loving watching it, man. Like I hope it translates, man. But I love that he's just doing it in his backyard on a little trail that he built and like that gets me all fired up. But yeah, like I want to see him put it together. And like he definitely knows what he's doing out there. And like I hope he has a great year out there for sure.
Yeah, he's doing something a little different too because he's talking a little bit of crap. And he's a pretty quiet guy, but he's trying to, like I guess stir the bee's nest a little bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe, let them have a little bit of fun with it. I've been the talker before, but like that was before like that didn't help me at all, and like I've never said a word leading into that race since then. But yeah, no, I think he's gonna have some fun with it.
Yeah, I'm just yeah. What do you think about I think the buzz around like Harvey's getting slept on too a little bit. Like the buzz is all Mark Dowdle because he won BPN. Like he hasn't run anything close to this with this vert. Like how well do you think that guy's gonna do?
I really don't know too much about it. I didn't hear the name until somebody said something, and yeah, like I saw like glimpses of the BPN thing. Like I think like he seems like new fresh talent. Like I'm curious to see how like that translates. Because it's a different game out there. Like I think one thing that might play to his advantage is him not knowing what this race is. Like he's never stepped foot on that course before. Sometimes I think a lot of people could have that a really good first year without really knowing what they're getting in for. And then I think a lot of people have that next really good year on their third year. I think that sophomore slump, like I think more people have that than not, but like I think him just being, a rookie this year at it, I think that could play to his favor and like hope it does. I hope he's somebody that's in that bunch to like really push that group of like 5 or 6 people to go really deep out there.
Yeah, I was talking to my buddy the other day, and I think this is my fourth year, and like I just want to be able to skip to like 16 hours in, like I just want to get through all of that stuff to where like it's like before like you're fighting to get to the first morning break, and because like those whole you just know how much effort it takes to even do 16 or 20 hours, and then there's a lot more after that, and you just want to like skip all of it.
Right. Like I think that first night kind of dictates the tone for that second day, and I think a lot of people, I've noticed kind of like the last 2 years, it's gotten real quiet at night. Like having Luke out there, that's definitely going to help a lot because Luke's going to tell some awesome stories, and that makes everyone run a little bit faster to stay close to him.
Hmm.
But I think if people can band together really that first night and keep those people with them into the second day, I think that, light brings life, right? And I think that second day can kind of rejuvenate a lot of people, but they've got to make it through the dark night. Like daylight is coming, like you will feel better. You'll also get to that 24-hour break, but I think we got to try to bring as many people through that first night to get to that second day.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'm hoping to make it there this year. I have no idea what shape my body's in, but you never know.
Yeah, I'm
It's
curious how
good.
the Cocodona thing's gonna sit well, like. But yeah, man, I hope you have an awesome year out there, man. Last year was awesome watching you, and like I think that's been something real cool. Like, we didn't know each other until a couple years ago, and you were one of the people that I think you were the only person that stuck to the end. The year I won, like there wasn't a lot of people there. Like when it was all said and done, like you were still there. So it's cool to watch you go back every year and do Tennessee Mile a couple times and like see what you've done and like man, like you just did Cocodona, like you're going back for mid-state. Like it's cool to watch what you've done with running and like the things you've learned and how you've matured as a person, man. I'm super proud of everything you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, man. And like I said, we've become friends. Like that was the first time I was ever exposed to you. And like I just stayed because one, we had Juneteenth Monday, so like I had the day off. And I was like, I need to learn whatever this is that's going on. Like I did 50 miles and I'm toast. And these guys are almost 100 miles past that. I got to figure this thing out. And it was really cool
Right,
to watch and learn. And I tell anybody that if you have the time, don't any and this is for any sort of backyard race where you can kind of hang out in an area and observe what people are doing. It will bode well for your future. I tell people that all the time.
right. Because like one day that could be you out there, take notes from those people who've put in the time and like countless hours out there. Like there's a lot that people can teach you out there. Like their faults, their successes, and everybody's account of that little mile is a little bit different. So man, I would say listen to everyone, like be willing to keep your ears open and like see what the mile can teach you, see what others can teach you out there who've been there before you. And if not, like somebody's got a story. Everybody in ultra running's got a story. Listen to the people around you. And I think that's the great thing about this community. Like we all kind of have a lot of more of us than not have, a little bit of a rougher past. And I think it's something to kind of serve as that constant reminder of like, we can endure as humans. We can endure with our faith. Like we can push through to find the good things on the other side that are waiting there for us if like we're patient enough, and in the meanwhile we're like showing gratitude for whatever our situation is. Like there's good things to come.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mid state, it. I hope anybody that's running it this year that it's brand new. I hope you feel everything that Eric and I have talked about and that we've experienced as well. This race is like a family, and it will change you. Whether you've done it for 1 year or if you're in your seventh year. Are there two people coming back for year? What are we 8?
Yeah, it's Kara and Jeremy, but they live there though, so
Well,
like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
kind of, yeah, they got the home turf advantage. They were beating me with the doing it every year, but I will see them out there hopefully next year.
Yeah. But either way, folks, there's something to gain from mid state, from doing hard things, from running long distances. And somebody like Eric Kienle here is a testimony to that. So I just appreciate your time, brother. Where can the people find you if they want to connect with you?
Uh, Instagram's probably the best one. Instagram, Strava, and Facebook. It's all at Eric Kienle, just my first and last name, no spaces. Um, yeah, I'm more than willing. Anybody wants to reach out, whether it's, faith or sobriety or questions about mid-state, I'm always happy to, help point people in the right direction. And, hopefully something I say sticks and gives you a good day out there. So
Yeah, I feel
yeah,
like you probably have a
free
lot
to
of
message
same
me.
conversations with people, faith, sobriety, and running. That's
Yeah,
like all my
yeah, whatever you want to know, shoot me a message. I'll get back to you when I can.
Yeah, Eric. Well, thanks for coming on, brother. I hope we can connect and do one of these in person sometime. Maybe after something big that you do. I'd love to have you on again. And you're a friend to me, brother, and I appreciate that. I'm grateful for you.
Oh, absolutely, man. Right back at you, dude, man. I'm glad to see where our friendship has gone, man. Thank you so much for, helping pace me for 35 miles at GDR and had a super special day in running. Like, I'm glad you got to be there for that. And, my other accomplishments, man. Like, it's good to like see who your friends are with time. So I'm glad you're here, man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll wrap it up, folks. We really appreciate your time here on the Made New Project. Eric's been an absolutely fantastic guest. If you guys took something from this, just leave a comment. Go follow Eric, okay? I don't care if you follow my pages, but go follow his pages. Support what he's doing. He's the man. And we appreciate you guys here on the Made New Project. We are out. Mhm.